Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopi Janavallabha Giri Bharadhari. Gopi Janavallabha Giri Bharadhari. Giri Sudanandana Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Prabhupada ki jai. Om Gyan Timidandasya Ginajana Salakaya Chaksun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Pastyatya De Satarine Vancha Kalpa Tarubhischa Kripa Sindhu Bebacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaho Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Before I say anything, I want to express my deep gratitude for very few persons in my life who have been very much instrumental in helping me in whatever progress I've made in Krishna consciousness. And it's the most amazing. All these people are here today. And it starts off with the devotee who brought me to Krishna consciousness. She gave class this morning. Vaidhi Shakti. She was one of the first persons, actually the first person to give me books and preach Krishna consciousness to me and make sure I didn't get away. She was very enthusiastic and very, very encouraging to bring Krishna consciousness in such a wonderful way to my heart at that time. And I'm eternally grateful for her, and she's doing so many things for others in the same way. Also, one person in my life that's been really a solid shelter for me, a guide, a personality who's been a friend, but more than a friend, but actually my spiritual guide in life. Person I came in contact when I first joined Krishna consciousness in New Vrindavan, and a person who is making hundreds and thousands of disciples all around the world by his preaching, by his projects, by his personal presence. He attracts people to Krishna. And that is His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaja. I mean, I can actually say I wouldn't be sitting here having any kind of situation of position if it wasn't for Maharaj. I mean, he did so much And he's still a guide for me, an inspiration, someone I can go to and get anything I need if there's any reason to get further edifications. I mean, he is, for me, he is as good as Srila Prabhupada. And of course, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the guru of the entire world, Jagat Guru, who's gave us this Krishna conscious movement, a chance for us to actually make a solution to all the problems of life and achieve the goal of life, Prema Pumartha Mahan, love of God. And so I'm fortunate. Of course, I cannot leave out a personality who was very, very always there at times when I needed him, as a friend, as an inspiration, as a person who I could hear from, I could become inspired from, I could learn from, and that was His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj. So when I look back at my life, I can see it was just by the mercy of many of these great souls that I have any opportunity to be in such a situation where I can offer some service to Srila Prabhupada's mission. It's only by their mercy. We heard this morning from Devi Shakti Mataji on the importance of this particular day, which is Vajra Purnima, very expertly outlining the importance of this day and giving great Shastra evidences speaking from Gaur Leela, Krishna Leela, and Srila Prabhupada's Leela, the connection of Vajra Purnima. So I'd like to just kind of emphasize the importance of this day even a little bit more by mentioning one verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is one of the fundamental verses that describes the purpose of Bhagavatam. Krishna swa dharma pagate dharma janaribi saham kalona stadrisame sam purnanakam dunoditaha. Translation: this Bhagavad Purana is as brilliant as the sun. It is written just after the departure of Lord Krishna for his own abode, accompanied by religion, knowledge, etc. Persons who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of ignorance in the age of Kali shall get light from this Bhagavatam. Now it is mentioned that when Sri Krishna left the planet, he left himself in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is actually the literary incarnation of Krishna. In the absolute sense of understanding, it is none different than Krishna. And the next verse, I'll read that also. And this is the final verse in this third chapter of the first canto. O learned Brahmins, when Sukadeva Goswami recited Bhagavatam in the presence of Maharaj Parikshit, I heard him with rapt attention, and thus by his mercy I learned Bhagavatam from this great and powerful sage. Now I shall try to make you hear the very same thing as I learned it from him, and I have realized it him. Srila Prabhupada, it's a very long purport, so I'll go to towards the end of the purport. The secret of knowing Bhagavatam is mentioned here. No one can give rapt attention who is not pure in mind. No one can be pure in mind who is not pure in action. No one can be pure in action who is not pure in eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. But somehow or other, if one hears with rapt attention from the right person at the very beginning, one can assuredly see Lord Krishna in persons in these pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. So Bhagavatam is Krishna in transcendental sound vibration. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati emphasizes this point by correlating the different parts of Krishna's body to the different cantos in Srimad Bhagavatam, starting with the lotus feet of the Lord, first and second canto, and going all the way up to the body of the Lord. As we progress farther, the different cantos are correlated, and all the way up to the smiling face of the Lord, the 10th canto. So we heard such a wonderful presentation on the glories of Bhagavatam and the importance of this day from Devi Shakti Mataji. Thank you. That was the most amazing presentation this morning. It was just unbelievable to hear. So much knowledge with so much realization. But the next step is now Bhagavatam becomes glorified constantly when we hear about it, when we read about it, when we practice the principles of Srimad Bhagavatam. So we must read and study the scriptures regularly. It's important. I'll read a statement from Srila Prabhupada. He says, throughout the world, whatever knowledge is there, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, everything is there. There is literature, there is poetry, there is philosophy, there is religion, there is love of Godhead, there is astronomy, everything is there. Srimad Bhagavatam, Amalam Puranam, and he quotes one verse from the 12th canto, 13th chapter, Vidya Bhagavatada B. If one simply reads the Srimad Bhagavatam, his education is topmost. Vidya Bhagavatada B. There is something topmost, ultimate. So for education, Vidya, this Srimad Bhagavatam. When one studies Bhagavatam, he is well versed in every subject matter. So if we create a new generation in your country, he was referring to America, so that in the future there will be fluent speakers in Srimad Bhagavatam and preach all over the country, and your country will be saved. This is our program. We have come here not to exploit your country, but to give you something substantial. This is the Krishna consciousness movement. What Prabhupada mentions. And he's speaking from realization. He's not just saying everything is there in Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's nice and it's important, and we glorify that, to distribute Srimad Bhagavatam, particularly on this day, as it's mentioned, place it on a golden throne and glorify it, worship it as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And one who presents Bhagavatam to others on this day, as it mentions, one is guaranteed the eternal life in the spiritual world. And so, but now we have to understand as devotees how important it is. Nasta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama sloke bhaktir bhavati naistaki. Not only to hear and Srimad Bhagavatam, to distribute. Of course, that is very important because the world is suffering from lack of knowledge. There's only one thing missing in this world, as Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati says, and that is Krishna conscious. And without transcendental knowledge, there's no question of being Krishna conscious. And so this transcendental knowledge is the greatest gift to the human culture, and it's the most needed gift also. It's amazing. Devotees were distributing Bhagavatams yesterday. I was just remembering. I just wanted to mention one personality who's made his life distributing Prabhupada's books. He's in America. His name is Mahotsava. I don't know if you know him. He distributed 55 sets of Srimad Bhagavatam in one day. One day. That's in one day. And so he goes out. He takes Bhagavatam with him, and he's out there distributing books from morning to night. And that's just a small part of his contribution to book distribution. But it just shows that how now Srimad Bhagavatam, as was mentioned, Prabhupada wanted Bhagavatam in every house for those who actually were intelligent, and he learned it. Gentlemen should have a set of Srimad Bhagavatam and, of course, Chaitanya Charitamrita. And Chaitanya Charitamrita, as mentioned, is living Bhagavatam, because Bhagavatam means the glory of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Chaitanya Charitamrita is that Supreme Personality of Godhead who's glorified. as Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we need to see how important it is to read and study this book, because by doing that, one will become fixed in the process of devotional service. There's no question of going away. Once you gain transcendental knowledge, you're fixed. Even though Maya will disturb in such a way, still, we have the reference, the philosophy, the knowledge that's given to us by the great souls through the scriptures and by their own personal realizations. That knowledge is the foundation by which we stay fixed in our practice of Krishna consciousness. So we want to take advantage of the Srimad Bhagavatam, not only by distributing it. Of course, today is that day that's just glorious. It's such a special day. But actually, we live Bhagavatam every moment. Nasta prayeja bhagavadresha, nitya, every moment. To hear Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada would say, everything is there in Bhagavatam. And the process of reading is the process of hearing. And hearing, it's mentioned in the Padma Purana that the principle of hearing follows three principles. And then there is a fourth principle that is a result of these first three. One is that when you're hearing Bhagavatam from those who are qualified to speak Bhagavatam, then you have faith that that person is able to speak. In other words, faith in the orator or the speaker. Two, humility. Humility means to be receptive to that message, not try to analyze it or try to reinterpret it according to your own understanding, but to accept it as it here. That is called, Prabhupada mentions this in this one to hear with rapt attention. What is rapt attention? That means absorption. And that's one of the principles of hearing. And of course, it applies especially also to the principle of reading. And then, what is the third principle? Destroying the faults of the mind. And that is that the mind will wander. Chanchalahi mana Krishna pramati balavadridham. The mind wanders. That's the nature of the mind. It goes this way and that way. But keeping the mind fixed on the sound vibration of Srimad Bhagavatam, on transcendental sound vibration, allows the next principle to manifest. And what is that? One gets realization. One gets realization of the knowledge that's being heard. And if one somehow falls short of receiving realization, then one will get questions. So this is the principle of hearing as mentioned in Padma Purana. If we don't get questions, or we don't get realizations, that means we weren't absorbed, but we weren't absorbed in the sound vibration. The mind somehow defeated us. And so this is the process. And Bhagavatam is just nectar, as was mentioned this morning by Daivi Shakti. Prabhupada chose Bhagavatam to take it to the Western countries. He had 200 sets. And although he spent 5 years in Vrindavan, translating Srimad Bhagavatam, and somewhat of a language that was a little bit hard to correlate with the actual proper English. Well, still, the message was there. And Prabhupada preached Bhagavatam from the time he came to the time he left. And that the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the process of pure devotional service, everything is there. So take advantage of this day by distributing, of course, and receiving Bhagavatam for those who are fortunate. And at the same time, we should renew our enthusiasm to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, to hear more and more, because this is the process of by satam prasangam mamavirya sambido bhavanti ridkarna rasayan katha. in the association of great souls, when the glories of the Lord are being spoken, that is nectar. That is rasayan. That katha is so sweet. It enters into the ear and into the heart. And then the mind becomes, what we say, submissive to the sound of vibration. And then the heart becomes somewhat charmed or purified. Now, this is the process of Krishna consciousness. And this transcendental knowledge is one of the greatest gifts. It's a special gift. There's a lot of those who claim to be leaders in spiritual areas, different sadhus, saints, and others, but they make their own philosophy. They think that by creating something new, this will attract people. And a lot of times, they get followers, but those followers don't get anything beneficial because they don't glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the essence of that glorification comes in Srimad Bhagavatam. I think Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, it was a Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Bhakti Vinod Thakur said, of all of the books in the world were thrown into the ocean, there was only Srimad Bhagavatam left, there would be no loss. How important everything is there in Srimad Bhagavatam. And so, this is the process. And of course, to hear Bhagavatam from those who are qualified to speak Bhagavatam. So Srila Prabhupada spent, how many hours not only translating and making his Bhaktivedanta purports in such a way that it could be understood by those in the Western countries who were not familiar with the Vedic culture, the Vedic text, the Vedic philosophy. Prabhupada really dove deep into his intelligence to come up with a way of presenting Bhagavatam that would be satisfactory and understandable to the Western mind. Along with the text, Prabhupada's Bhagavatam is glorious. It is glorious. There are other editions of Bhagavatam, but the commentators really don't focus on the essence of the Bhagavatam. But Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavatam, we can see the result. Thousands, hundreds of thousands of people around the world. Bhagavatam is ultimately Krishna in sound bite. It's called Amalam Paradam Paramahansa Samhitam. It's the best of all scriptures. And it's understandable by the grace of the pure devotee. So the more we go deeper into the practice of Krishna consciousness, the more we realize the process of transcendental knowledge coming from the great souls through the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. And Prabhupada was tireless in giving us Bhagavatam. And he spent, those hours when no one else was, everyone was taking rest, Prabhupada was up giving us Srimad Bhagavatam. He made that his mission. And he also said that now take this knowledge and learn it and distribute it. And he wanted each and every devotee, and this is not just some statement, he made this statement many times, I want each and every devotee to become a spiritual master. He said, what does it mean to become a spiritual master? Is to be able to repeat the words of the previous acharyas, practice Krishna consciousness accordingly, and based on your practice and understanding, you'll realize the text of Srimad Bhagavatam, transcendental knowledge. So we need more and more persons to come to that platform of spreading Krishna consciousness through this transcendental knowledge given by Srila Prabhupada. The world is really in bad shape. I don't know, sometimes I peek into the news and see what's going on, and then things are, I'm not sure what level of planetary system we're on here. I think we're in the lower planets, and sometimes what is going on in this world is so horrible and so abominable, and people are really, really suffering. But if we can make even one person become attracted to devotional service, that is a great achievement. But we don't want just one. Srila Prabhupada wanted the whole world. That's the heart of a great soul. His compassion is unlimited. He wants to give that same, I remember one particular incident which illustrates Srila Prabhupada's really deep, heartfelt concern for other people's suffering. This was in Mayapur when he was, I remember somewhere he was, I think, standing on one of the buildings, more on a higher floor. And there had just been a serve out of some prasadam, I think it was some khichdi. And now everything was there, the plates were there, and some children were running around from the villages. They came to get whatever they could find. And then there were dogs also. So the dogs and the children were scraping and fighting amongst each other, trying to get whatever. Prabhupada saw that, and it really brought a tear to his eye. He felt so like we have to do something to help them. And then he started to institute a regular prasadam program every day in Srimad Mayapur Dham. So the heart of Srila Prabhupada, the heart of a great soul is they feel for the sufferings of others. They rejoice in the happiness of others and they feel for the sufferings of others. So it's our duty and it's our legacy to somehow or other take this knowledge that Srila Prabhupada has given us, and whatever capacity we have, whatever position we have, whatever qualifications or disqualifications we have, it doesn't really matter, because as soon as we develop that desire and apply it to the practice of distributing this mercy, Krishna will empower that devotee to do wonderful things. So I thank you very much. I know this is supposed to be a quote-unquote Vyasa Puja ceremony, but all I can say in this regard is that I'm very fortunate to have the opportunity to have the position to represent in some way, some small way, Srila Prabhupada's mission spreading Krishna consciousness. So thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.